don't get it. Why are we sitting here when they're talking? These 4-3 talking and we're just standing in this corner.
Yeah, I think we're going first. Well, I'm a happy guy, mate. Just laugh, mate. I really want to back to
Is he so scared of taking his stuff?
So what are we doing? Are we going to sit over there, man? Sophisticated. What's it feel like? I know it struggles to speak. Is it? We can take
You ready?
What's this?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're live from the Students' Union today for the second candidate debate. The smell of competition is in the air as we have one day left until voting is open. So for those of you that don't know, I'm Wesley Hudson. I'm the chair today of the debates and I'm also the current Students' Union president. A special hello to all our viewers at home. Mum, if you're still watching, do some work. So wherever you are watching, you can tweet your questions into candidates using the hashtag WSUelections, and I will read them, so please don't put anything inappropriate because they won't be read out. So I'll quickly run through how this afternoon is going to work. We'll get the roll balling first. We're going to have speeches by and then questions to the candidates for president, followed by the candidates for Vice President Student Activities, and then the candidates for Vice President Education. Could you please turn all your phones on silent and try not to talk while people are doing their speeches? Candidates, just like this morning, I'm going to call you up one at a time and you have a maximum of 2 minutes to finish your heartwarming, shocking or inspirational speeches. If you go over your time, you will be stopped. So yes, we'll start with the 3 candidates for president. This morning there were 4, but unfortunately Philip Brooks was poorly and he couldn't make this afternoon. So if we just go down the line quickly and you say your names, and then we'll get going.
My name's John Major.
I'm Jade Haley.
I'm Hugo Sugg.
Okay, so you have 2 minutes to do your speeches. John, your time starts now.
My name's John Major. I'm currently third year student doing cricket. During my time at the university, I feel like the SU has stopped developing the future for the students. I'm currently chairman of a very successful society, growing society that's ever improving. A few points from my manifesto: improving facilities, making it more of a welcome environment. Looking at the sofas at the moment, they look a bit tattered. Also developing the big screens, making that a more of a social side of things, so where people can see that what people are doing, not just society-wise or sport-wise, but during lectures and what they're doing there. To improve car parking for students, the prices of the car parking at the moment is quite high, so moving on, helping mature students. Obviously next year there is talk of the maintenance grant being scrapped, so helping with the Access for Learning Fund, so that will be helping them, and also the block grant, making that increasing as well. That's me.
Thank you, John. If we have a round of applause for John. Jade, your time starts now.
Okay, so I'm Jade and I'm running for the role of president. I've gained so much from my uni experience and I've honestly loved every second of it. The uni's helped me so much develop as a person, and as cliche as it sounds, I would really love to give something in return. I've been involved with the SU throughout my time at uni. For the last 2 years I've been working here, first year as a cleaner and this year behind the bar. And from this opportunity I've been able to meet so many different people, and it's something I really, really appreciate. I would love to become the next president, so all students can have their own unique experience and make great memories that they can look back on in the future. Mental health is something that is really close to my heart and something I'm very passionate about, and I would love to see more awareness be raised throughout the uni. We currently have some mental health fair stalls, and there's usually about 2 weeks worth in each semester, and that's something that I would really like to see progress and be more consistent throughout the academic year. I feel my passion and drive for this stems from helping in the Nightline volunteering programme, which I've been involved in all 3 years of my uni life. I've been involved in the committee and would love to continue my work with this programme as president. I have plenty of ideas and I'm more than willing to listen to other people and let their ideas come to life. I personally feel that all of my goals as president are realistic, helpful, but most importantly, they're achievable. I would love to go above and beyond to help anyone, and I really hope that people can put their trust in me. As president, I would be there for the students, for the good times, the proud times, and hopefully bad times, but hopefully there's not very many of them, and I can turn them into good ones. I would love to be here as someone that you can rely on and trust, so please put your faith and support me, and I promise I will not let you down.
And finally, Hugo.
Hi guys, my name's Hugo Soga, I'm running for president as well. I have 3 manifesto pledges which are all for the students. The first one is about student housing. I believe that student housing out there in Worcester, private landlords, they are rogue, they can cut corners, they can charge extortionate prices for really low quality homes. In the private rented sector with an estate agent, you can pay the same price and get a much high quality. So why should students be ripped off? The second one is about Freshers Week and Induction Week. So I don't want it all to be geared around alcohol. I want, in the first week when freshers come in September, I want them to come into the SU in their blocks, in their halls, blocks or their houses, come and play games, come and watch films, come and break the ice a bit. And then, in the evening, they will have met people that they can go out with that night if they choose to go out with. In the second week of them being here, I also want to give students city tours around the university, around Worcester. Like, not many students on this campaign trail know there's 2 bowling alleys in Worcester. Now, if you pay £14,000 to invest in living in a place, you want to know what facilities are out there. The last one is about transparency. I believe that the SU is quite closed off from the 10,000 students, undergraduates and 1,000 postgrads. I want to be able to see the SU go to places like the Hive, go to places like City Campus, your elected officers, so students can come to you, come to us, and ask us what we're doing about our manifesto. Another thing I will do is, my manifesto is about my promises that I want to do as president. I will stick that in my office the day I take office, and so you can hold me to account. And the day I leave, I'll take my manifesto down. If you believe I can do it, please vote me as president. Thank you.
So thank you very much for all of your speeches. We will now have questions from the floor. Does anyone have any questions? Don't all rush at once. Yes?
So, John, you made...
Just to say that there are no personal directed questions, they're to the positions.
Everybody. Car parking was made quite a big thing in one of the manifestos you sent out. St John's campus, there is no car parking, there's no additional. So how do you address that when the nursing students or the bigger cohorts, you can't get space, whatever? Like, how do you address that if you can't get any more on campus?
I'll go first, I guess.
Yeah, reminder, if you want to speak, please raise your hand. John?
Obviously, yeah, you addressed me, so I think I'll go first. Improving car parking, it was more of an improving car parking, cheaper rates, as well as gaining more access. Obviously, you know that the university is expanding, it's bought land elsewhere, and obviously the land, some of it is quite close. Over the time that they've said that they will build stuff on that, if elected, I would ask that they recommend having a look at that, looking at it wise, such as, yes, they're going to develop it and build on it in the long term, but in the short term, can we put car parking on there and can we put cheaper rates on there for students? You've said nursing there. Can we look at special courses? Can we look at certain institutes that we look at and give in a cheaper price? Because obviously you've got placement students that are only on campus sometimes, other than doing their placement as well.
Hugo?
One thing I would say about car parking is I would see a better relationship with the City Council who monitor streets, and I want to be able to see less restrictions on street parking around the university, so people, if the car parks are full on campus, they can park on the surrounding streets. but still be able to have a nice walkable distance to come into university. That is only through a working relationship with the City Council and the authorities who monitor the roads and street parking.
No? Okay, so are there any more questions? Yes, Matt?
I had a brief look at the online accounts on the Students' Union website, and under, from what I remember, under the grants that the Students' Union receive from the university, it's quite small proportionately compared to what the universities receive. I know the fact that, for example, Pear, which has an equivalent amount of students, receive around twice the amount from the university in a block grant. So, it seems as though the Students' Union at the moment are quite overstretched internally in terms of finance. So I'm wondering how you would perhaps approach the university and actually try and get more funding from them on that.
So if I just form that into a question, how would you approach the university to try and increase the block funding for the Students' Union?
Yes.
Did you understand that, candidate?
Yeah.
Hugo?
70% of the SU funding is from the university, which is last year was £379,000. I don't want to see that increase from the university. However, what I do want to see is that increased from other sources of funding. So, in my job, I'm a third year youth and community work student. I've had to, in my placement, write funding bids. I did a fund bid grant exercise last year and got a B+ on it. I can write bids for money for other organisations. So if you guys as students want something, so if you want another counsellor in the counselling support team in the university, you can come to us. I can look for funding where that is. You guys can sit down with me and help write a bid for that. And so there are other avenues of funding rather than just begging our knees to the university, who have 70% of our power, and begging off them, because that means we remain less independent. If we weren't an independent charity, why are we relying on a business to support our independent charity? If we wanted to be funded more by the university, we'll just become part of the university. They own this building. They own the building you're sitting in right now. So, you know, you either go to the university for more funding and they have more control over us, or we look elsewhere for more funding opportunities for things that students want.
Jade?
I completely disagree with that. I think by having money from the uni, that does not at all make us less independent as a union, as a community. Without the block grant, we would not be able to do much in the SU. The block grant enables prices of sports and societies to be less. If we have less funding, prices will go up. Less people will join sports, less people will join societies, and less money will be made overall. I do not disregard the idea of fundraising. I think that's a really good idea, but that's something that can be done as well as more funding from the university to ensure that we're gaining as much money as possible. But I don't think, like you said, we're very small in money compared to other smaller universities, which is something that I would like to see increase, because at the end of the day, it does benefit all the students. And although the university and the SU are different, the university are still there for the students. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a university.
John?
I disagree with Hugo. I totally agree with Jade about the fundraising as well as the block grant. Having a smaller block grant means that it's more of a cost-centred issue. But if we get a larger, or we increase on what we've got so far, that relieves a lot of pressure on where we're spending that. Like Jade said, that we're a developing uni. We've not got, as yet, the biggest budget or biggest block grant. But obviously, over time, we try and improve that, as well as the university surrounding areas. We're improving that, so why can't we improve? Why can't then they improve the block grant? If the university is growing, so should the SU. Everything else is everything else is improving and growing, so why can't we improve and grow the SU as well as the block grant?
Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll move on to the next question. Somebody has tweeted in, what do you think the role of a president does? Hugo?
I looked at the job description quite carefully before I handed in my nomination form. The job of president is there to help liaise with the management committee, form the executive committee of the student union, go to meetings, sit on the board of the university directors or governors or whatever it is. It's there to help create campaigns that students want and lead on those campaigns. The president, I believe, the president should be the face of the student union. The president should be out there talking to students, talking to the 10,000 students who pay to be here, and be approachable and have an open door policy. But also, for me, as a president, to come out to you. I don't think it should just be about getting people to come to the student union. That's why I want to go to the Hive every fortnight, hopefully with the VPs as well, if they come along. Every fortnight, I want to go out of the SU building, and so students can come to me in an environment that they feel comfortable in. Because sitting on the other side of a desk from a president, if you're talking about, for example, your mental health, can be quite daunting, because the president's got a computer, he's on the other side of a desk. That relationship is quite daunting. I want to be able to go out there into an environment where students are comfortable and be the face of the SU, and I believe that's what the president role does.
John?
For me, a president is the face, like Hugh said, he is the face of the student union, but saying that it's quite daunting behind a desk, I feel that's a bit of an exaggeration. Seeing Wes sat behind a desk this year, I won't say it's quite scary. But having said that, being the face of the SU, you need to go out there, you need to make the environment comfortable, you need to go and promote the student union, because you are the face, you are the leader of the student union, but also working together as a team. You've got the student vice president, you've got the education vice president, you've got to work together as a team to make sure that you get the most success from the student union.
And finally, Jay?
Yeah, agreeing with bits of that, I think that the main role of the president is to lead the team and the union in a strategic manner that ensures that the policies and people's manifestos and everything that they want to achieve is done, is achieved, is possible. It's supposed to be a student-centred and student-based community, and that's something that emphasis needs to be put on. We are here for students as a means of support and a way of communication, so yeah.
So, are there any more questions? Matt?
Sorry. Okay. I'm wondering, there doesn't seem to be much kind of overt political activity within the students' union, I suppose from a wider cultural perspective as well. There doesn't seem to be much going on. I mean, there tends to be, there's volunteering and stuff like that, so that's kind of part and parcel of what's been happening historically. But there's nothing kind of new in terms of perhaps having, I don't know, political hustings or things like that. I'm just wondering how you'd kind of facilitate that activity to a greater extent.
Jay?
With that sort of thing, if people ask for that, then by all means something will be put in place for them. But until people come up to us, that's not something we're just going to create, because obviously we will not know how many people are interested, like what sort of space we will need for activities. So it's that sort of thing that what we're here for. So if you have ideas that you want to happen, if you can come, put them forward, and then we can talk about it, get a group of people that want to do it, then by all means we can do anything. So yeah, but it's just student-based, so.
Hugo?
I think there's two types of politics. There's party politics and then there's normal politics. Party politics is your Labour, Tory, Lib Dem, UKIP, whatever. I believe that if we want party politics in Worcester, and I think it would be quite a good thing, we set up societies which are to do with that, and we set up a debating society which has political leanings on there. The other side of politics is the small politics, which is all about, for example, engagement in elections, or how to talk to your SU elected officers. Politics is all around us. And so I think actually we need to be students need to be more engaged with the student union. I mean, today, there isn't 10,000 students packed in this room. Partly some are in lectures, partly some are in placement, partly some aren't in today. But why isn't there more students in this SU building right now hearing these debates? That isn't about party politics, that's about politics in general. And I want to see that improved.
I just think it's student-led, like Jade said. That's my opinion.
Short and sweet.
Yep.
Okay, so we have a question from Twitter, which is, how do you plan to support the mature students more? So I'll repeat that again. How do you plan to support the mature students more? John?
Obviously, some of you will know that obviously the maintenance grant is apparently being scrapped. I'd work with the NUS to reverse that maintenance grant, so that we put more pressure on the government, so that they would then hopefully change that. Helping mature students is a big thing, because obviously you can see in mine it's promoting academic help, but promoting academic help that's such as access for learning. And I'll speak about it big because people don't know what it is, or some people do and some people don't. But knowing what that is a big help next year due to that maintenance grant, according to the government being scrapped. So that would enable them to have more funding. But along with the Access for Learning Fund, you could then hopefully have a bit quicker timescale so that you receive that money if you are needing that much help.
Jade?
So last academic year, there were 10,067 students recorded, and 37% of them were over the age of 25 and classed as mature students, which is quite a big amount of students we have in general. So in a way to appeal to them, literally, is asking them what they want, asking them what they need. Like Hugo mentioned earlier, a lot of activities at the uni seems to be like alcohol or like nighttime events sort of like orientated, which is something that could definitely but like can be other things put in place to appeal to a wider range of people, like our mature students, because there's no reason why they shouldn't be included in things. But obviously the main things happening at uni at the moment are targeted at the younger generation, but that's something that definitely could be discussed and found out, and feedback from that could help us to make a change.
Hugo?
64% of our students are classed as mature, because the university class is mature as 21. 64% of our students are over 21. Over 21. Some of those are older, so some of those have families, some of those have jobs, some of those have children. How I would approach that is actually by coming off social media for a bit, because actually that generation don't use social media as much as the younger generation, but being able to relate to them. I mean, I'm 25, so I'm technically classed as a mature student. I was when I came here when I was 22. How I would do it is by asking them, like Jade said, ask them what they want, but also seem approachable and actually turn the SU from being just a centralised thing that you have to come to into being something that we go out and see you. We go out to the students, we go round to lectures that go on until 8 o'clock at night, and just because it's anti-social hours for us, because we work 9 to 5 or whatever, like why aren't we going into mature student lectures, for example, with nursing or teaching, and asking them what they want? Oh, no, because that's happening at 8 o'clock in the evening. Well, I'm sorry, that isn't good enough. We work for the students, and if a mature student comes to my office at 5 to 5, and I'm meant to go home at 5, I will not leave until I know that that mature student is happy. And that means I could go home at 6 o'clock. My tea could be cold, but actually that student leaves that office, that mature student leaves that office a lot more confident than when they walked in at 5 to 5 that afternoon.
Okay, so we have another question. What are your plans to tackle sustainability at the university? Jade?
Okay, so obviously we have the Green Impact Award, which is to promote like going green, like being more self-sufficient. So as president, I would communicate with them and also the sustainable officer. Is that right? But yeah, so definitely like keeping up the communication with the people who are already involved in things like that, and seeing how they can be put across to more people.
Hugo?
I know a charity in Worcester, which is a young person environmental charity called Worcester Roots Foundation. If elected president, I would work with them and other charities which are to do with sustainability, to help improve our sustainability kind of pledge. Another thing I would do is you go into Pearson and you see all the computer screens on all the time, and you see all the computers on all the time. How much electricity is that using? So I'd want to see actually students being able to not just log off their computer when they finished at 2 o'clock in the morning, but actually shut it down, because that saves us so much more money. That keeps us green, and that actually stops the room overheating because all those fans. So it would be about actually making students more aware about sustainability issues. If you leave a computer on or your TV on for hours and hours, I mean, I've walked past the SU before at 3 o'clock in the morning and the TV screens are still on. And I don't think that is very sustainable for our environment or our money.
Okay, we have time for one last question. Lewis.
You've all spoken a lot about green impact, so about bar, the student supervisor shop. We also do all these other services. I'm intrigued to find out what you think the core functions or the core aims of the Students' Union should be.
So that's, I'll repeat that, sorry. What do you think the core aims and functions of the Students' Union are? Hugo.
I believe it's support and advocacy. Support, so if a student has a problem, they come to the SU or we go out to them and they talk to us. And we are able to support them in that, so go to meetings with them. And that goes on the advocacy side. So if there is an issue with student finance and a student feels a bit uncomfortable going to the student financial advisor in the university, or feel a bit uncomfortable about going to First Point, they're able to come to us. And myself as president of a VP Education or VP Student Activities is actually able to advocate on behalf of that person. Now that is a skill that I've developed in my years of being a youth and community worker, is advocacy for young people. I have a proven track record of saying something and doing something. Since November, I launched a campaign about raising awareness in Worcester about homelessness. Since that campaign started in November, I've been mentioned in Parliament, I've been on the TV, and I've been on the news in Worcester News about 5 or 6 times. I have a track record of saying something and doing something, and that is advocacy. That is speaking on behalf of other people who don't necessarily feel that they have a voice.
Jay?
Okay, so as well as like being here as a means of support, which is obviously a really fundamental part of it, it's also to ensure that the things that are being proposed to happen are happening. Like Hugo said, talking about it is one thing, but acting on it and making sure it happens is another thing, which is something that should be within the aim of all people in the forward-facing roles of the student union. So, yeah.
John?
Yeah, I agree with both of these points, but also creating a more fun environment and more enjoyable environment, so that you could come in and just relax, chill, have a drink, whether that's alcoholic or not, or just everyone enjoying themselves, especially when they come into the SU, whether that's making the SU facilities better. Obviously, we do a student survey, see what they have to say, see what they think that they could improve on, and what can change to make it more of an environment for people to come in and enjoy more.
Thank you. So, if there are no more burning questions, we will go back down the line, and if you could just remind everyone of your names and just sum up your campaign and manifesto in one sentence. Just one.
Just one. My name is John and I'm running for the SU president. I want to change and grow for the SU, for the future and for the students.
I'm Jade Haley, and my aims are achievable, realistic, and beneficial to all students.
My name's Hugo Sugg. My manifesto says, I'll stop decisions being made without your consultation, look out for you in your university experience, listen to the views of students regularly, and act on your behalf.
If we could just have a round of applause for So, we are now going to have a very short break, so grab a cup of tea, go to the toilet, and we'll be back in 2 to 3 minutes.
Mic's off, yeah?
Right, testing, 1, 2, testing. Okay, testing, 1, 2, testing. Is that okay?
Testing.
Are we ready? Yep. Hello everyone and welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your very short break. Now we have the candidates for Vice President of Student Activities. So the same again, if you could just go down the line and say your name. I say a line, it's 2 people.
Yeah, so I'm Hemaka. That's enough.
I'm Jamie Atkin.
Okay, so again, like before, if you just do your speech, 2 minutes, and you'll be cut off if you go over. Hemaka, your time starts now.
Yeah, so you already know who am I. I mean, I'm Hemaka and I'm already the current Vice President of Student Activities. So already done a lot of work to club societies, volunteering, and all the other things as well. So I've been working close to club societies, doing monthly meetings, monthly award, things like that. I've been improved a lot of things I've been doing, talking to them, and a lot of things I've done this year came from them rather than I'm building stuff for them. So it's been all student led throughout the year for me. And also there's few things I've been already planned for the next year. I'll just go through a couple of few things I'm going to do for the next year. So I've been talking to university, which I want to do, which a lot of our students achieve a lot of things, but university doesn't tell anyone or no one knows what they achieve. It could be studies, it could be sports societies, it could be anything. But anything that students achieve, I want to do a weekly, monthly newsletter, magazine kind of a thing, so then people know what the students are done and what students been doing, things like that. And also, I want to build more relationship with the host. Students live in halls and all the institutes. So a lot of our students live in halls and they don't do much. Some of them are doing sports, but not all of them. So I want to do a league which they compete each other halls. So then, they compete, like it's not sports, it could be anything, it could be debate, or anything, it could be anything. So same for the institutes as well. I want to keep an eye on more art, academic societies, also art, culture and music societies, which we are lack on. So Matt already did a lot of work on that. So I'm all supporting them to get more club societies on that side. Also volunteering projects and keeping the rag society going up. Yeah, thank you. That's me now.
We have a round of applause. Jamie, your
good
time
a-
starts now.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jamie Atkin, and my reason for running for Vice President of Student Activities is that after 3 great years here, I really want to give something back and help current and future students of Worcester and make sure they have a great experience. My philosophy, if elected, would be to use my year very effectively and make the realistic and exciting changes to improve student life for all who attend the University of Worcester. I believe my work ethic will help to integrate myself into the Students' Union team and take a proactive outlook on the position. And then by using my time effectively, I can ensure to complete my aims and go the extra mile. To ensure this, I will set myself targets throughout the year to meet and keep track of my own progress. I believe a strong students' union can help to build the reputation of the university as a whole. As some people already know, this is one of the fastest growing universities in the country. And for example, if we look at other large universities around the country, they use their students' union as a foundation for students to amalgamate themselves into student life and create an identity for themselves. This is something I'd like to emulate here, and I feel is very important. I'd also like to therefore promote and develop just activities in general outside of lectures. For example, using sports, societies and volunteering. I would like to increase recreational sport to try and make this as open and as accessible to as many groups of students as possible. In addition, I would also like to set up new societies for people who are interested in sort of new activities that are out there and improve the support that they are currently receiving. I'd also like to increase the awareness and the opportunities for volunteering and increase the awareness for logging your hours and actually being recognised for the volunteering hours you do. Hopefully I've convinced you to put me, Jamie Atkin, as your number 1 choice for the Vice President of Student Activities. Thank you.
So now we will have questions to the candidates for Vice President of Student Activities. Any questions? Don't all rush at once. Or leave if you have to. So I'll just go back onto the Twitter feed. There was one. How will you support students to run their own events within the Students' Union? Hamaka?
Yeah. So a lot of students come and talk to us when they're doing events, either to Chris or me or to Wesley or Louis. They all come and talk to us. So this SU building is Mondays and Thursdays are there for students. So if any student want to do events up here, it's always more than welcome to come and do events. So what students should do is always, and one of the things that we do bad is we don't sell out like what event students can do, things like that. That's one of the things I think as SU we should improve, like what students can do in this building, so things like that. So this could use as a dance floor as well, so students can do anything on this floor. So I think what we need to do is show the students what things they can do on this building.
Jamie?
I agree with those points, but also believe that in the first few weeks if I was elected, I would have to do some legwork to get to know the many committees that are already put together. However, once done that, I think advertising the students' unions itself, or making opening times more available to people, actually knowing when this place is available to them and accessible, in addition to letting them know what they can do and what powers they have, I think it is quite good to let them know.
Okay. Matt?
Sorry. I'm just wondering, it seems historically within the Students' Union there's a lot of, the focus tends to be around sport, and I'm really glad that recently the Students' Union have been very supportive of the arts with helping facilitate the arts week that's happening next week. I'm just wondering how you as VPs for student activities specifically enhance kind of art and cultural activity within the Students' Union.
So that question was, if elected, how will they be able to enhance society's arts and culture within the Students' Union? Jamie?
Well, I would initially promote it more, because personally as a student at the moment I'm unaware of any sort of art or cultural things that are happening. So then I would go the extra mile to actually promote it and give it more recognition initially. I'll then obviously work with you and talk with you and ask what you would like, and hopefully work upon that throughout the rest of the year.
Hamaka?
So I totally agree what he said as well. But thing is, like, there are a lot of students who work on humanities and creative arts, so the other students are more likely to like create a society because they got the equipment to start societies on that side. So what we need to do is like just get them like to know like what they can do on this building. Like Matt started a culture group, so people join that. So people are unaware of what they've been doing. So what we need is just promote a bit more and join that group. From that group, then you can create other groups. So say someone who's just passionate about art, there might be someone passionate about music. So there's two groups joining at the same time from a one group. So they all meet up in a one time. Then they all have separate groups to like to do each event.
Okay, any questions? No? So we've got one from Twitter, which is from the University of Worcester volleyball team. How will you ensure all sports performance teams get equality, for example, opportunities to training facilities? So I'll read that again. How will you ensure all sports performance teams get equality, for example, opportunities to training facilities? Hamaka?
That's the question. I think every year, whoever comes here get a question now is like how we can get time to like play our sports. I mean, university obviously growing. We are growing like every year. We are getting extra 1,000 students. So that's the massive growth for a university. So university building are the things outside the area we are on St. John. So we got sports, so we got arena, and we got 3G, all the other things. So recently university bought the top barn land. So more sporting facilities going to be there. That means people get more time to spend on the training times, things like that. So sports like smaller sports get lesser time. I mean, I've been arguing with this all the time, but only thing is with the recreation side we have, and also we have a lot of performance time. So it's a bit harder to get when we got about 60 different sports teams when we got here. It's harder to get training time for all of them, like more than 3 times. If you have outdoor facilities, yes, you can get more training times, but indoor facilities, we got only 2 places to spend. So hopefully arena be getting bigger and bigger, so that means more facilities you get for sports students.
Jamie?
I agree with the points being made, but also would like to really emphasise this top barn thing and actually make sure I sit in on the meetings and have a say from the students' point of view, and make sure that all sports equally get an opportunity to have an influence upon the development of top barn. And also, as it's quite off campus as well, I believe that a shuttle service could potentially be put on, and it's something that could be developed over the next year or so. Obviously, this is going to be a long-term development, but I think that getting the Students' Union voice across early will help the development of this.
Yeah. Any more? No, we've got a lot on Twitter. So, how can you promote student achievement further, be it volunteering, sports or societies? So I'll read that again. How can you promote student achievement further, be it volunteering, sports or societies? Put your hand up. Jamie.
Did you say volunteering?
Volunteering, sports or societies?
Okay.
Any of them?
To use volunteering as an example, I spoke to Andy Wager previously to this debate and found out that actually we have 970 students actually on the V record, which is a system involving logging your hours that you do voluntarily. Only 339 of those people actually log their hours continuously. I feel that this can be promoted more, and actually promoting the awareness for this is a massive thing. Then obviously once they reach the minimum of 50 hours that goes on your transcript, this can also be promoted a lot more and actually be seen as a higher achievement. Therefore there are further, after 50 hours you go to 100 hours, etc., and this keeps building and actually have more given to your degree as you leave the university.
Hamaka?
I mean, he made a good point, like volunteering is key important thing, but the question was like literally asking how we going to improve the achievement. So obviously one of the things on my manifesto was the student achievement, more promotions. That means the magazine coming in. So, but also we got TV screens all around the campus, which everyone can see. If you walk past a TV screen, you just look at it, like that's your sense. You looked at the screen more than anything. If you see a poster, you don't look at it, but if it's on the screen, you always look at it. So we need to use the TV screens to more promotion, like the achievements our students do, especially like after Wednesday, a lot of people asking, how did our team do, So there's no other way, like unless somebody put in the results on like a weekly basis. Apart from that, no one knows. Same for the societies. No one knows what they're doing unless like the SU promote for them. It's a bit harder to promote as we got like the sports society and volunteering community, the same community that always do stuff. So we need to go wide and look for the students to get involved as well.
Okay. Any more questions? No? We still have more on Twitter. So what will you do to improve the amount of money raised by RAG next year? Which, for those of you that don't know, RAG is Raise and Give. Hamaka.
Yeah, so currently we are undertaking the planning for the RAG week. So it's a week of events that are happening. Most of them are led by students. There's hardly anything that run by the Students' Union. I think what a lot of students are unaware is there's awards for like doing for awards for the most fundraised societies, club, things like that. So make sure you guys club societies are the biggest thing in the Students' Union. So they fundraise a lot. So that's why get involved with. If you're not part of a club society, there you go. You can do help with them with a RAG event. So you can do charity event. A lot of business school students doing fundraising during that RAG week. So get involved. There's so many fundraising ideas coming up from students. So I think at the minute RAG being a bit downside because of I think it's the lack of involvement with the I would say the events from the club society. So I've been asked every month like what we guys want to do with the RAG events. So hopefully we get some more events coming up in next year.
Jamie?
I feel that we could get a head start on the RAG events. I know that it's not until sort of October time when the actual RAG officer is elected. I feel that maybe in the month or so before that we could do some events there. I feel like I could personally help out and maybe use that as an opportunity to get a head start to increase the record. Also, there are events on that happen in the SU weekly. You've got things like the quiz and karaoke, and things can be used. These can be used as charity raising events to raise funds, and can be basically prioritised for certain weeks for certain groups of students to have a challenge to raise money for whatever charity they believe in.
Okay. Any more? We still have more on Twitter. So, how would you organise student activities in the first couple of weeks of term for first year students? So I'll read that again. How would you organise student activities in the first couple of weeks of term for first year students? Hamaka?
So a lot of club societies getting their members during the Wednesday, so the sports and activities. After that, a lot of people have their trials, things like that. But always been a trouble, like some of the students have the same time training for the other sport, and a lot of people take two or three sports. So that means they can't play both sports and society. Or some of them want to be part of a society and a sports team. So that's the only problem, because we are always been a smaller community of sports society students. It always been the same people doing most of the things. So what we need to do is I think. We probably need to encourage people to come regular basis. I think what you need to do is, we need to develop more skills on the committees rather than just building, trying to get more members. If they're giving more things for the whole members they're getting, so then people get better experience when they're leaving the university or when they're leaving from the club or the society.
Jamie?
Initially on that first week, a lot of the first year students are incredibly busy trying to settle in. Obviously we've got the fair that happens usually on a Wednesday, to obviously keep that and keep promoting it on that week. However, once that week's gone, maybe in the following 2 weeks, people are trying to integrate themselves in societies and sports. Maybe people who are finding themselves that not necessarily fitting in those, is to find those people and actually try and push them, not necessarily push them, but find them other avenues they can go down to have a good time at university outside of lectures. So find them other interests or other sports or other volunteering opportunities, and actually, if they're not getting on in one thing, not just to drop out and do nothing, to find them something else to do for the rest of the year.
Hamaka?
Sorry, I forgot to mention some of the things. Some of you not aware about the women in sports and exercise, so that's one of the things university looking in a lot this year at the minute. So because majority of our students are female students, so that's one of the things university are helping to develop a lot. So if they are doing weekly regular basis like different yoga, fitness classes, things like that, I think that's another way we could encourage students to get involved with the Students' Union activity. So So that means that's some of the, I think the, as a university and the students union, we just need to work together to develop most of these things.
Okay, so again, we don't really have any more time for questions for you until later on. So if you want to just say your name and then your campaign manifesto in one sentence.
So I'm Hemaka, I'm running for Vice President Student Activities again. My main aim is to work with the sports societies and volunteering, also keep an eye on the rugby as well, and also give students a better student experience throughout the year.
I'm Jamie Atkin, running for Vice President of Student Activities. I feel that my work ethic and ability to help make some exciting new changes will be good to be beneficial to all students next year. Thank you.
Okay, so if you have a round of applause. So now we're going to take another quick break, but first I'd like to give a special shout out to Lydia Porter, who put #Where'sWeCan. Unfortunately, I can't run again, but thank you anyway. So yeah, we're going to have a quick break, and we're back in 2 minutes when we hear from the candidates for Vice President of Education. Okay. Hello everyone and welcome back. We will now have speeches and questions for the candidates for Vice President of Education. Again, we will start here and go down the line, and if we could just say our names so people in the audience and people at home know who you are.
My name's James Goodver.
I'm Alex Woods.
I'm Katie Knight.
I'm Debbie Doyle.
I'm Chloe Baker.
I'm Frances Story.
So, we will now start with the speeches. James, your time starts now.
Good afternoon everyone, my name's James and I'm currently campaigning to become your Vice President of Education. I feel that the 3 years of university life so far provided me with the essential skills to become a successful VP, providing university students with the best education and experience possible. Performing well within a full-time officer role feels fundamental within the run and improvement of the Students' Union. As some of you may know, it's an independent charity, and the constant maintenance of the relationship between the university and the SU I feel is essentially providing a foundation in which students build their academic experience. At the end of the day, students don't want to spend 3 years of their lives working with the Students' Union they did not trust or believe in, because the university student is the most important person here. Developing you as a person and the experience in which the Students' Union provides you ensures the maximum gain from your time here. My philosophy for the VP role is simple. I've chosen simple and effective goals that I feel are achievable under my period in office. The inclusivity of every student I feel is essential in providing this. By making sure every student is heard will allow the best and most diverse decisions to be made and lead to a better general consensus to be maintained institution-wide. In the role of VPE, I feel it's particularly academically focused. If elected, I believe I can make significant contributions to every student's academic experience through representation, advice and support, making sure that students get the most out of their degree. Coinciding this with my approachable nature and ability to make things happen, I feel makes me a strong candidate for the position. If you have any questions or queries that aren't answered here today, feel free to get in touch at any point.
Sorry.
Alex,
your time starts now.
So why vote for me, Alex Woods, is your number one choice for Vice President of Education? Well, in my 3 years at university, I've been a student rep, I've been on a committee, and I feel I've learned a lot in my time here. I like representing the views of students, and I've taken a great passion in that over 3 years. Hopefully you've all read the manifestos of everyone up here today, but if you want to read mine, it's online, it's on the SU website, and I won't go into detail about it now. But the two biggest points I want to try and get across when I'm sat here in front of you today is one of maintaining feedback and the quality of feedback we get on assignments. Everyone here sitting in front of me now has had assignments, everyone here has had a feedback on assignments. For every feedback you get, there's going to be one you're happy with and one you want to question and one you want to fight for. And that's why I want to sit here today and make sure it's standard across the whole board that everyone is happy with their feedback on assignments. The second point is more help and support, whether it be financial, welfare or anything like that, for placement students. There's the two biggest institutes we have are the Institute of Health and Society and the Institute of Education, and a lot of those are placement-based courses. And I think it's allowing those students on placement more awareness, more opportunity and more accessibility of support in placement. And that's why I think you should vote for me as your number one choice for Vice President of Education.
Katie, your time starts now.
Hi, I'm Katie and I'm running to be your next Vice President of Education. My main aims, if I do get elected into this role, are based on my own 3 years at this university. My current roles are a staff for psychology, an institute rep for the Institute of Health and Society, and the chairman for the Psychology Partnership Panel. These roles have given me skills in negotiation, leadership and time management. And I've developed a lot of experience in listening to what students want to change and going out of my way to change it. If elected, I'd like to offer more support to those of you who are expected to find work placements for your course or just want a bit of extra experience by creating partnerships with local businesses. I'd like to improve university resources, even simple things like the amount of plug sockets in lecture halls, which sound really petty, but they're things that affect us daily. I'd like to put more of an emphasis on mental health by offering further support and guidance to those suffering. Mental health illness amongst students is incredibly high. Statistics from the 2015 NUS survey shows that 78% of students suffered from mental health illnesses, and just over 50% of these didn't seek support, which is quite a shocking number. But obviously everyone has their own reasons. And I'd also like to make sure every student is aware of all of the opportunities which can be offered to them during their time at university. I'd like to stress how important these opportunities are. They make your qualifications stand out so much more from the next person. So elect me if you'd like someone who's passionate about the role and who will go out of their way to get you what you need and want.
Debbie, your time starts now.
I sit before you today as a candidate for Vice President of Education. In this position, I assure you that I would work hard on your behalf. I've logged over 900 hours with volunteering with the SU since July. And that just shows to show you how committed I am to the roles that I already hold. I will listen to your ideas and do everything in my power to make sure that this university is the best that it can be for you and for future students. My roles as Star and Institute Rep over the last 3 years have given me an overall understanding of the challenges that we as students face on a daily basis in our institute. In my role as a mature student officer, I've seen these challenges across the whole institute and also our partner college, and working on these challenges with students is making a difference for them. The background and commitment I have to you as students makes me the ideal Vice President of Education candidate. I'm not only going to be your candidate, but I will also be your friend, and like a good friend, I will be honest with you about the challenges that we face. I will do my best to communicate with you and keep you informed of everything that's going on within the Students' Union, the university and its partner colleges that affects us as students. As your friend, I will also be asking for your help. No one person has all of the answers or can do all of the work. And working with everyone within the SU, the university staff and students alike, we will succeed with these challenges. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link, so together we must be strong and cooperate to achieve these goals. Some of my ideas for the coming year were to work on childcare within the university during school holidays, for students that have placement and also for mature students who have children. To work on a wider range of module choices for these institutes that need them. All I ask is that you believe in me to get the job done. I will not let you down. I am asking today for your vote. I believe I have the qualities to be an effective leader, so let's begin the journey of making this university the best that it can be for you today. My name's Debbie Doyle and I want to be your Vice President of Education. Thank you.
Chloe, your time starts now.
Hi, I'm Chloe Baker. I'm running for Vice President of Education. I'm a third year psychology student and you may recognise me from working in the SU shop. I also helped set up the Psychology Society in my first year and I've also been a star as well. I've also been on the Ultimate Frisbee Committee for 2 years, which I feel has really helped me and will help me reflect that in my role if I was to be elected, and I've also had the pleasure of being chairman this year. With the help of the committee, I feel as if though we've broadened our diversity and inclusivity in Frisbee with obtaining more female members and also more members as a whole. And I also want to reflect this amongst stars. At the moment, I feel as though stars are re-elected every year and it's always the same people, and obviously it's such an important opportunity to be a star. It looks good on your CV, helps you with graduate schemes that you might be applying for, that kind of thing, and it also builds up that relationship with your lecturers. It's an extra responsibility and you can also add it onto your V hours, but it genuinely is worth it and I feel like it doesn't get the recognition it deserves. My second thing is also to increase availability of high demand textbooks. Obviously paying £9 a year, set texts are extremely expensive, especially if you've got 6 modules throughout the course of the year. I want to make high demand textbooks more available, more of them, you can hire them for longer and also reduce costs to bring them back if you do happen to bring them back late. I also want to make, obviously you may have realised there is a massive influx of students in the past couple of years and Pearson is obviously normally quite busy. You walk around campus and sometimes there aren't classrooms being used and I'd really like to use these as a workspace. You can bring your laptops along, get some more work done and make the most of the £9 that you are paying. I'd like to be elected because I feel as though I can really enforce these 3 points. I've kept it as 3 because I feel that's an achievable number, along with other responsibilities as well. And I really want to fight for you to get the value for money you deserve and vote for me. Thank you.
Fran, your time starts now.
Hi, my name's Frances Story and I'm sitting here as my colleagues looking for your vote for Vice President Education. I won't regurgitate my manifesto because it's online if you want to read it and I hope you will. But first of all, can I emphasise I don't want to work for you, I want to work with you.
because I feel that by working for you, we take away your independence, and as adults, we should be striving to become more independent. And also, I believe that everyone chose the Worcester University for their education and what they offered. But as we are all aware, there is always changes going on in higher education, and we need, well, the officers need to be aware of these issues on both local and national scales, so that we can represent the students at our university to how it's going to impact on them in the future, and how we can help change what's going to happen. For instance, today in the news, a big company who does graduate schemes has dropped their classification on degrees if you apply for their scheme, which sort of can have a double-edged sword effect, because what will happen is people will stop working to their full potential, and I think if you're paying that amount of money for your education, then you should strive to get the best classification, regardless of how you want to take that forward in the future. And I think that we still need to develop a lot of the academic support services and the student services at the university, because, for instance, with the STARS, which I'm sure has been mentioned before, is that in first year you are asked to vote for a STAR without being told what STAR is. And STARs actually are given a handbook, but the student is not told what is in this handbook. So everyone's unsure of how the STAR is there to represent them. Thank you.
So now you've heard speeches from all of the candidates for Vice President of Education. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, yes?
Placements were mentioned by a couple of you. How would you specifically aim to support placement students after this?
That's been tweeted a couple of times as well. Good question. So that's how would you ensure support for students whilst on placement? I think that was Katie, Debbie, Katie, then Debbie, Alex, then Chloe.
My kind of idea towards that, because personally I was expected to do a placement for one of my modules in my second year, and I wasn't given much guidance, and I know that's part of it, and I'm not trying to like wrap people in cotton wool. I know you've got to go out there and find your own opportunities, but because I commute and I live quite far away, I did find it quite awkward. But I think creating sort of partnerships with local businesses and maybe a few a bit further out, I was kind of thinking about something along the lines of like a work placement fair for students to connect face to face or electronically via email or whatever with, you know, employees, potential employees for this sort of role, and applying for work placements workshops so people know where to start, people know where to look, people know what sort of thing they have to say to get the roles that they want.
I agree with what Katie says, and I think it's also the fact that as students we have an onus on ourselves to actually know what our placements are involved with. We need to be able to make sure that we know what we're supposed to be getting out of our placements, which then gives us a wider range of people that we can go and ask for these placements. Tutors need to be able to tell us how we are supposed to go about this, not just put it on an email and say to you, right, you need to get a placement, go ahead and do it. We need to have some guidance with that, and that's what we need to put in place. There is needed to be more guidance, clearer outlines, and also being able to get the local businesses not only to the university, to where you are placed as well. So it needs to be sort of where you're living at the time, and get some placements that are okay for those as well.
Alex?
So obviously one of my big manifesto points is supporting students while they're on placement, and obviously there's a lot of students sat in this room at the university that will undertake a placement, whether that's a small placement or long blocks of placements, sort of 6-10 weeks at a time, etc. And I think those students will have different needs. All of them will have different needs, different financial sort of responsibilities while they're on placement, how they travel to placement, etc., and what they need from placement. And I can't sit here now and tell you I know exactly what every student needs. So I think if I was elected as your Vice President of Education, that would be my first role, to find out what these students need for support. Is it financial? Is it welfare? Is it a mix of the both? Is it someone to talk to? Obviously, there are your lecturers, there are your institute that you can go and speak to, but those are the people that have sent you to your placement. Those are the people that are sort of saying, off you go. Do you need someone else to talk to? And if that's what students want, that's what I'll try and strive for in the job. So I hope that answers your question.
Chloe?
As well, I must admit I haven't done a placement myself, but I've always wanted to because I think it gives you quite a lot of experience. One thing I would really like to do is provide masterclasses. So in your first year, obviously you are aware that you are doing a placement, and I think some of my fellow candidates have said that you then go and look at potential places where you could do your placement and see what environment you're going to be in. Maybe it's quite stressful, then you can prepare yourself beforehand. I think also as well it's important to have support both during, before and after. Obviously it's quite daunting if you're on a placement to go from working how many hours a week to then go back into your studies and writing how many essays you need to in the week. So I think that key support needs to be there. So in order to support you, I'd suggest maybe fortnightly surveys, fortnightly emails from your academic tutor or anything, see how your placement's going, if you're having any problems, and if you feel like your placement is worthwhile to your course.
Fran?
I mean, I do know that some placement students feel quite adrift to the university, basically because of the hours they spend here is quite limited compared to all the other students. But because of the roles they go into, they know that that's the case before they start the course. And the question is, how do we support them whilst they're doing it? Maybe we could set up a system where when students come new or in the summer before, then they are gradually introduced to placements so that they're only doing one day, then building it up, so that they find out the expectations and the limitations of that placement, and then there's adequate time then to seek any support that they need.
Okay, so we have a question from Twitter as well. As a drama student, how can the Vice President work with the university in helping with spaces being available for practical work? We're very limited. I'll say that again. As a drama student, how can the Vice President work with the university with spaces being available for practical work? We are very limited. Debbie, then Chloe.
The university is expanding and there are going to be more spaces available to us. Obviously at the moment there are still empty places that we don't use, and they need to be utilised to make sure that everybody can get everything that they can out of these spaces, whether it be the Pear Tree, whether it be outside space, whether it be a lecture room. We need to make sure that every single inch of the university is utilised for everything, not just for drama but for every single course. We just need to make sure that we are as proactive as possible with and looking for spaces to use, and then letting everybody be aware that what they can use that space for. So it's not just the onus is not just on getting inside space, but if you can do something outside, go and tell somebody that you can use that, and then see what you can do to book it.
Chloe?
I think my main suggestion would be, again, in my manifesto I put about unused classrooms. I know Debbie's just mentioned that, but I think that is, obviously it isn't the same space as a drama studio, but I also think as well, weekly timetables should be put on SOL, and I think a lot of people don't understand that students can book a room. Like, you're more than welcome to, there's an email address on the website, but I think that needs to be promoted more. And if, say, a timetable was promoted every week and you can book in slots, I think that would really organise time and make sure people can use facilities effectively.
Alex?
Sort of echoing what Chloe said there about being more aware of how students can book a room and what rooms are available. Maybe an online system that shows you sort of which spaces are available and when, and how big a space is, and sort of what the needs of a group is. So obviously the question was from drama, so obviously they might need a bigger space depending on what sort of group it is or performance it is or anything like that. So I think, or a centralised place where students know they can go, they know they can book, like Chloe said again, is you can book timetabling through the website, but do you know what you're getting from that room? Do they decide what room you're going to get? Do they decide what space you have? Or do you have as much input as you need onto which space you want to book? So I think a more centralised place to sort of be able to know where to book a room and where to book a space would be ideal.
Fran, then Debbie, then James.
In an ideal world, I think the drama should have their own space because they need a lot of space for what they do. And I know that's not possible at the moment where we stand, but we can start communicating more with the drama students, see what their issues are, what they want in the future, and then we can start putting together an action plan to maybe try and lobby the university, because as they're expanding, they could maybe incorporate an area into the expansion that would be dedicated to them.
Yeah, we need to remember as well that we've got other spaces that we can use within the university. We have the Hive, which we're a partner of, and there are studio spaces there that can be utilised. We can also book those as University of Worcester students. We can book their rooms out. We could try using Riverside, the arena. We have so many spaces outside of our general comfort zone of the campus that we are working on that we need to make sure that we utilise those as well.
James?
Well, I agree with what everyone is saying in terms of people can book rooms themselves and things. One of the main roles of VP is to actually show representation for students. So if the Drama Society feels they are not getting sort of privileges with rooms, if they're struggling to find rooms, that's one of the jobs of the VPE. So from therefore, you go and lobby with sort of the university side, keep up a good relationship, and from there build on what has already been set in place. So the university is expanding at like an exponential rate anyway. Hopefully with the increase of students coming in, the increased influx of money and things, it will open up other avenues. For the time being, it's about lobbying for what we have rather than we don't have.
So do we have any more questions? Matt?
With regards to what you just said about rooms, as we're expanding, more rooms are becoming available, but at the same time the cap of student numbers has also been taken off, and the university is trying to get as many students in the university as possible, so that's kind of, you know, that will make less rooms available at the same rate, if that makes sense. So there's two sides to that coin, really. And I've got a separate question, which is, sorry.
So was that a question or just
No, that was just a statement, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. My question is, on the university's website at the moment, there's a document with regards to personal academic tutoring, which outlines the responsibilities that personal academic tutors have with personal academic tutoring, and that the responsibility really lies on that document with the lecturers, the personal academic tutors, getting in contact with the students about academic tutoring. But that doesn't seem to be the case, and that document's not being upheld. I'm just wondering, as VP for Education, what you'd actually do to uphold that document.
So, that was a very long question.
Sorry.
So, what would you do as VPE to uphold the document about personal academic tutoring? Katie, Chloe, Debbie, first.
I think an important thing to remember with the academic tutoring system is that you've got to meet the lecturers in the middle. They could be supervising how many students, they're teaching, they're doing their own research. Particularly with us, we get, updates about when we can book in for progress reviews and things like that, but I don't know whether that's institute-wide. But I think if elected, it would be a case of having to actually meet with the lecturers, meet with a few students, find out what each think about the system, and try and improve it based on input from both sides. So.
Chloe?
I was just going to say, I feel as though Vice President of Education kind of bridges that gap, so say between students, then STARS, then institute reps, academic tutors, that kind of thing. I think it also needs to be made apparent that a student is responsible for their own education. So if you're paying £9,000 a year, I must admit I've never heard of this form, and I feel like that needs to be advertised a bit more, because that opportunity is there, and I think a lot of people don't know. I know, again, like I said, I haven't heard of that, but I feel with some courses, maybe it's for smaller ones, that you just email your academic tutor and they give you a progress report or offer you a meeting, anything like that. So I'd say for bigger institutions, that should be advertised more, and I think that is the role of the Vice President of Education, which needs to be done. But with smaller courses, that can be done through email, but obviously with the support again of the Vice President.
Debbie?
So most of us actually have an onus on ourselves to actually make sure that we book these appointments. They aren't there just for us to look at and think, oh, I don't need to do that. We need to make sure that we use them for both good and bad things. How do we improve on our essays? How do we do this? Where do we go for this information? So we need to make sure that we book these appointments, that we email our tutors, that we have them usually for 3 years. So they get to know us on every single bit of what we're doing, where we're struggling, where we're not. They're there to give us the information, but we have to ask for that information. They can't continually keep telling us stuff. We're not there to be drip-fed information. We need to make sure that we ask for it. A lot of us don't utilise the system properly, and we do expect to be able to just walk in and we're the only ones who are there. You have to remember a lot of these tutors may have 100 students who are their academic tutors, and 99 of them have already asked for an appointment. We need to make sure that we're doing that. Are there some of you struggling with the same things? Why not have a collated one? Do things like this. Make sure that you are helping yourselves as much as they are trying to help us.
Alex, Fran, James and Chloe.
I think, again, sort of echoing what the other candidates have said, it's about sort of holding those lecturers who aren't quite upholding that policy to account a bit more. So if a student does have a problem, is sort of finding a brick wall and not being able to get that appointment or not being able to see their academic tutor, it's sort of fighting that corner a little bit, maybe speaking to the institute, speaking to other staff sort of higher up and making them a bit more accountable. Again, like you have got a sort of 100 students to see, then again, we're managing that time. How can we utilise more staff better, or like you said, the group appointments or things like that, where if people have got similar problems, similar issues, of sort of trying to solve that a little bit more, sort of managing the time of the lecturers and the students a little bit better.
Fran?
In the Science Institute, it is mandatory that you have two academic tutorials per semester, and you are given a sheet that has to be signed by your tutor to say that you have attended, and if you don't fulfil this role, you are penalised. And this works in science, and they have a really good turnover for their tutorials. But also, if this document is available, then I will repeat words that many lecturers have said, and I'm sure that you will have heard: ignorance is not an excuse. So how can that just apply to students when it should also be applying to lecturers? If they don't know it's there, they can't claim ignorance, they should be looking for it. And also that lecturers, institutes and the university should be held accountable if they're not fulfilling their role. If they're putting these regulations in place, then they should be adhered to.
So James, then Chloe, then Debbie, then we'll move on.
I think initially it's got to be, we've got to be proactive on both sides. We've got to understand, speak to lecturers why, see why it's a difficulty fitting everyone in, and then for the same from the student side, and try and come to sort of a middle ground. I think sort of your educational tutor is, although it is someone to monitor your progression throughout the 3 years, it's someone to speak to and monitor your personal development as well, because these are the people who are going to be providing you with references and things like that. And if you don't have this consistent sort of interaction with them, they can't monitor it. They won't know who you are. Like just been said, I think mandatory sort of interactions with your academic tutor, at least one a semester, is a good thing. I think that should be pushed for. And again, look, you've got to be held accountable for your own actions. If you don't see it, it could affect your studies. But at the same time, seeing them is going to progress your studies further, so it can only be looked on as a good thing, seeing them.
Chloe?
I know I've spoken to a couple of people and they feel as though their organisation is quite bad, their institute, is quite badly organised, and is to say, obviously, yeah, it is 50-50, but then also it may not be your fault. Maybe you have emailed someone every week because you want that progress report. You want to know if you are getting a 2-1, especially in third year, when it's the most stressful time of the year, especially in March. That is when you could talk to your stars, because that is what they're there for. If not, that's why this role is elected, because you know, hopefully, that in the Students' Union, you can knock on that door and just say, I'm having such a hard time getting in touch with my academic tutor, and that's when we contact the institute rep, and then if not, we are that point of call that you can come to. So I think that needs to be emphasised a lot, that if you don't, because some people do not know their stars. I know for me they are put on the sole page, but I don't know if that's the same for a lot. But I feel as though some people may be too afraid when we were elected to approach us, and Lewis now, that you can, if you are having problems with your course. That's what we're here for.
Debbie, and then we'll move on.
The form is actually quite generic, and I think in some respects it doesn't work for all institutes, and I think in some respects it almost needs to be a live document where it can be manipulated to the fact that everybody can actually change that document for what they need from their institute, from their course, from their academic tutor. Each one of us has different needs and different goals, and we all need to make sure that those are actually drawn out during these academic tutorials. We need to make sure that we can achieve the goals that we want, and how do we get there? We need to make sure that each one of these is checked off the list, and then we can work on that. We need to make sure that we have positive feedback on these lists and then be able to work on it and move on from there. But again, the onus on us is actually making sure that we have the right criteria on that checklist for us as individuals.
Okay, so I think we have time for one last question for the candidates for Vice President of Education. Lewis.
Okay. What role do you think that you as the elected Vice President of Education will play in relation to or response to recent government cuts regarding higher education providers and students?
Fran, then Debbie.
I think that our role as the Vice President for Education is to ensure that any cuts that are happening in the government at the current time does not impact on the student, and to see that the university takes a bigger stance in what they put into education, because we are paying a fee and we want good value for money from that. So we need to ensure that regardless of changes, that the same level of education is available for every student regardless of who they are or where they come from.
Debbie.
Change is always inevitable, and the things are the government in themselves are actually trying to cut funds and things to a lot of things, not just to education. But we as VP Eds would need to make sure that we were able to signpost the students to all of the finance that they were able to get, and make sure that everybody is aware of where you can get it, how much you can get, what you have to do to get it, and make sure that we are all applying for everything that we possibly can. Showing people how to save money as well on different things. Do we really need to be able to have to purchase all the books? Can you buy them? Can we get them from the library? Making sure that we utilise every single facility that we have to try and cut those costs down for us.
James, Chloe, then Alex.
So I don't know how much people know about the latest government cuts, but essentially what I'd like to do is consult with the university and then build a strategy upon this. So to give you an example, they're changing things such as maintenance grants to maintenance loans, meaning you'll have to pay them back instead of it sort of being a bursary given to you. There's also a massive point is a cut to the disabled students allowance. So it's the money sort of that people are given for support during lectures, for computers, for things like that. To give you an example in my manifesto, one of my points is about online lecture capture. So your lectures will be recorded and then placed on Blackboard instead of just a file with your presentation in. In terms of cuts to the disabled students allowance, individuals who wouldn't be getting the support during lecture time would then be allowed to go onto Blackboard, look at the lecture again and sort of rewatch it until it was understood. So obviously that's one of my manifesto points supporting the latest cuts in the government.
I think, although I can't change that the maintenance grant is being cut, I think the best thing we can do is try and work around it. Obviously, as already mentioned about the disability allowance, it's in 3 tiers, and a lot of people I know that are here on the medium tier, which is about £88 every 4 weeks. That can't be changed, but I think one thing that can be done with the £9,000 that we do pay, that there should be more facilities like speech typing. I don't know if any of you have heard of it, where it's like an audio microphone, it types essays for you, which I think would be a massive help for disabled students, and also something simple as more automatic doors. Just obviously if your maintenance grant is being cut, you want a stress-free uni life, and I think something as petty as that could really influence the uni. And I think it isn't in our power to change the maintenance grant. It's really annoying because a lot of people that deserve that money aren't. But like Debbie said, use of the Hive, which we can point you to, because obviously it is impossible to know everything about the uni, but again, that is why we're being elected. So you can book a meeting with us. You can ask us, what is the best way for me to get my set text? What is the best way for me to make the most of the money that I do have? I think that's a really important thing.
Alex?
Yeah, again, obviously, like Lewis said about the cuts, until you knew what the cuts were, and obviously we no idea yet until sort of when it gets announced by the government, etc. I think it's just about being proactive until then. It's about having, like James said, a bit of a strategy in place for eventualities, and like Debbie said as well, it's about being able to show students where they can get that support when they need it. So sort of greater awareness of what there is out there for students, a greater promotion of what there is, so letting people know by whatever means it is that there is this support when the cuts do come, and a case of making them accessible. How easily, readily are they available for students? How quickly can they be accessed by students? And sort of how easy is the system for the students? If you hit all of those 3 things, then I think it should be a lot easier for the students when, or if these cuts do come in for the next academic year?
Debbie?
With the expansion of the university it is, they're looking at taking on, it will be that their student number will probably go up to about 15,000 over the next few years. So with the expansion, we also need to make sure that we expand facilities by having labs, also like computer labs, where these Snapdragon? No, what's it called?
Dragon Speak.
Dragon Speak, yeah, I knew it was a Snapdragon. Dragon Speak is actually on there. So we need to make sure that these facilities are available for people to share. They are expensive, and perhaps we could put that into the university. We need to make sure that there are facilities available to buy, to rent more computers or hire more computers from the university. And not just be able to keep them for 2 days when you've got a massive project to do or an assignment. You can only hire them for 48 hours. Make that an extra length of time for the disabled student, for people who live away from home, mature students with children who aren't there, people on placements. Let's try and get some more resources for them and use the expansion that we've got to actually further all of the things that we need to do for these students that are going to lose out on some of these loans and some of this funding.
Last one, Katie?
Yeah, I think kind of echoing what everyone else has said about, making it as pain-free as possible for every student, because obviously it is a big change, but we don't know quite how big yet. On the other hand, I know quite a lot of students don't actually know what's happening, don't know how it's going to affect them, aren't entirely sure. So I'd like to make it a bit more of an approachable subject for people. Maybe have some meetings with people once the changes go ahead to explain exactly what's happening, exactly how it's going to affect them, and exactly how we, as full-time officers, are planning to make it as painless as possible for the students.
Thank you very much. That's all the questions that we're going to have for the Vice President of Education specifically. If we'd like to go back down the line and just do a quick one-sentence summary of your campaign.
I'm James Gunther. I've chosen simple and effective goals that are all achievable in order to increase academic excellence at the uni.
So obviously again, my name's Alex Woods, and the reason I'm standing for this role in front of you here today is because I want to leave the university in a better place than when I found it.
I'm Katie, and as your next potential VPE, I plan to ensure every student has the experience they deserve and need to achieve their goals and enjoy doing so.
I'm Debbie, and our roles are defined by your needs, so your voice needs to be heard, and if you tell me what you need and vote for me, I promise to listen and act on what you need from your SU.
I'm Chloe Baker, and I'm running for Vice President of Education because I want the importance of stars to be acknowledged, and I want to fight to get the value for money you deserve from your education.
I'm Frances Story, and I believe that we all come here for the best education and student experience that we can achieve, and I believe that together we can make this happen.
So if we have a round of applause for Anne. So, there are a few more questions that have been sent in via Twitter, so we're just going to have a 1 minute break, literally 1 minute, and then we're going to ask questions to all of the candidates. So it'll be an open floor, anyone's game, back in 1 minute.
Why did I say Snapdragon? What on earth made me say Snapdragon?
Snapchat, yeah.
I said Snapchat. I was thinking, and then I got Snapdragon, and then I'm like, I know it's Dragon Summer.
and welcome back to the final instalment of the 2016 Hustings Candidate Debate. So, we have more questions. These are all the candidates that are running. Are there any questions? These can be answered by anyone. Again, please raise your hand. Any? No, I'll go to Twitter. So, what are your plans to engage with a wider diversity of students? What are your plans to engage with a wider diversity of students? Okay, Katie, Jamie, Alex.
I think personally it would just be a case of making my presence known, probably quite annoyingly, but to the point where everyone knows that where I am, what I'm doing, that they can always come and speak to me, knock on my door, no one is discounted. I just want to make sure that everyone has the experience that they want, need and deserve from this university.
Jamie?
Currently, figures, I don't think that's working, but currently figures are showing that for LGBT, BME and mature students that there's very low activity across sports and society specifically. I feel that just going out and talking and engaging with them and asking why this is would be a great way to sort of get a larger diversity and actually attend to students' needs.
Alex?
Yeah, sort of follow on from Jamie's point there. I think it'd be using these sort of part-time elected officers to try and sort of use them in as great a way as possible. Obviously using their expertise and what they've been voted in for and sort of their communications and their contacts with a wide variety of students and sort of reporting with them to have as much diverse engagement with students in the university as possible.
Hugo, Hamaka, Debbie, then Chloe.
I think engaging people from minority groups isn't as easy as kind of just telling people to come to our doors, because we don't know the barriers for LGBT, we don't know the barriers for disability, we don't know the barriers for women, we don't know the barriers for BME, but it's about going on training, about looking at their needs and looking how you can talk to those people, because we find it quite easy as politically engaged students to go and knock on the SU door. Not a disabled student in a wheelchair might not be able to do that, and it's not just as easy as saying come to us. It's about us actually understanding their needs, and so we have a greater understanding of how we can approach them and tackle their issues and get them more engaged in the SU.
Hamaka, Debbie, Chloe, and then we'll move on.
Yeah. So being an international student for me as well, so for me I think the students minority should come out from their own area, because then people know who they are. Like, I mean, thing is, like for me, I just like talk to people, like I just join a club society. That's the best way to like get in with people. Being a part of a club or society, a lot of international students do, and we have a lot of part-time officers. They're the ones we need to like work as a unit. Like we have an exec. That's if we work like a group, then we can like get in with all the students in the university to do different other things.
Debbie and Chloe.
I'm a mature student officer at the moment, and with 63% of the university, I've had to go out and find out exactly what mature students actually need, what it is that makes them tick, and what it is that they actually want from the SU. So in speaking to them, we've also come across the minority groups and some of the most diverse groups in the university. So it's actually going out there and actually finding out what you as students need and making it work between the SU and the students, being able for you to come and tell us what it is you need rather than feeling that you can't, and then working on those together and getting them set up and getting them working.
Chloe?
I think you can provide diversity in uni, because I think there's a massive emphasis on sport, which doesn't have to be the case. I know a lot of students here are on sports courses, but I feel as if societies were promoting more, that gives people the opportunity to get involved with not just say who you're living with, but another group of people, and then so on and so forth. Because a lot of people have said in Worcester, you're never more than 2 people away from each other. You always know someone who knows someone else, and I think that's one of the many things that people love about Worcester. But I think that really makes people feel included, because we have the advantage of being a small university, that we should have a less of an excuse of people feeling left out. And I feel that university, when you first get here, is really intimidating, and I feel that's why the sports and activities fair is so good and it's promoted really well. And but I do feel like societies could be promoted a bit more in that, so they don't just have to play sport.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the next question. Lewis?
I've got a question tweeted in by Taylor, one of our institute reps.
Taylor said, as this is always a huge issue, how will you improve communication with students if you're elected?
So that's how will you improve communication with students when you're elected? Ooh, hands up. Okay, Hemeka, Fran, Jade, Katie.
I mean, each of us have different ways of communication because it's like president's role pretty much cover most of the things. Then education, you pretty much cover that side of it. So I think we got full-time, part-time officers. I think as an exec, that's where you need to like communicate more than with the students. So all the problems that students comes up with or anything like that, it always comes to these officers. And I think if we work as a group, that means like you get a lot of problems together, and we know what things students need. Rather than doing things, we need to look at what students need. So if the students need anything, we need to help them.
Jade?
As a uni, we've got so many platforms of being able to communicate with people. Like, the majority of courses, if not all of them, have like a Facebook page for each year. I know for psychology, we've got one for overall, and then we've got ones for specific years. And becoming a part of them gets you engaged with those students. And obviously by posting on them, people on those courses will be able to see who you are, become aware of you, and be able to then come to you. Also in the same way as even if it's just like at the beginning of the year, popping into as many first lectures as you can, making yourself known so that people know that they can come and communicate with you and get a better idea of who you are.
Fran?
I think communication is a big issue within the university, not just for the students but also for the staff. Because at the end of the day, you can send a blanket email out to every student, but you can't guarantee who reads them or just puts them in their junk box. And this is the case with at the beginning of semesters, that students are overrun with emails, so a lot of them will not get read. And I think that all we can do is get ourselves out into the public domain, make ourselves known, attend institute meetings, attend first lectures, open days and things like that. Make ourselves aware, not just us personally, but the SU, because a lot of people still don't know what the SU's role is in the university. And that's all we can do, and then expect students then to communicate with us. But if they don't, then you go out and repeat the process.
So, Katie?
A couple of my points are kind of echoing things that have already been said. I like the idea of being able to drop into lectures at the start of each semester. I mean, I know it sounds a bit pointless doing semester 2 drop-in, but there's a lot gets lost in those 2 weeks we're off for Christmas, 3 weeks or whatever it ends up being. Just to make your face known, let people know what you're there for, let people know where you are, what you're doing. Regular electronic communication, so email, not bombarding people, but letting them know you're there, you're doing it, you're fighting for what they want, you're open to new ideas. Facebook, again, brilliant method of communication. I'd also like to be seen sort of moving around campus, speaking to groups of people, not having to book meetings, not having it be really serious and, you know, daunting, but actually be in social situations with people, which I find personally from being an institute rep and a star, that's been the most successful in getting feedback from people.
John, then Hugo.
I think it's just about working as a team. So you've got your part-time officers and you've got the VP and of sort of student activities and educational. I think it's just working as a team. So the guys have said, you know, going around first and second semester, so doing drop-in sort of sessions for everyone, so that everyone can see who you are first and second semester. Giving them fun activities as well. Obviously, sometimes you're going into a lecture and you're thinking, oh, why am I here? You know, giving them something to do, something fun and activity. We've got the facilities, so why not let's use them and give them something enjoyable so that when they leave, they go, wow, I've had a fantastic time, but at least I know who the student union team is that I can actually talk to.
Hugo?
I think working as a team is really key, but I don't think it just lies with us. I call it the chain of communication. Students talk to stars talk to the SU talk to uni, something gets done. And I want to see that not just go up, I want that to also come down. So I want the university to communicate back to the SU, to communicate back to stars, to communicate back to the student who made that. Because actually, if it only goes up the chain one way, no one knows what's being done. So what I've said in office is actually, if I can't stick to my manifesto pledge, any of my manifesto pledge, I will actually tell you what I have been able to do and why I haven't been able to do it the way that I originally planned. And that is transparency and that's open, being open about it. And so I believe students, stars, SU uni, uni, SU, stars, students, and that's how it should be.
Chloe, and then we'll move on.
Sorry, a point from that. Maybe the chain of communication might be a bit too long. I know in my first year I didn't know about all the different reps. So I think as far as communication goes, in order for that chain to happen, it needs to be promoted more. Because in my first year, I did not know we had institute reps, if I'm honest. It wasn't until second year that I fully discovered that. So I think in order to communicate, I think there needs to be Facebook groups. Instead of separating institutes, they should be brought together. So if one institute's doing something really well, they can then pass it on to another. So then again, that comes down to more meetings with the future Vice President of Education and the President, just to see what other institutes may be doing right for there, and it's working with that one, and then implement that for another institute.
So we'll have 2 more questions. Yes? Do you want us to come back?
No, but what are you going to do to make sure that specific courses have modules that are actually related to their course?
What are you going to do to make sure specific
courses are
specific courses
modules relate to their course?
Specific courses modules relate to their course. I didn't see. Put that out first. James, John, Debbie.
I think one of my points of my manifesto is to have periodic feedback. So that's feedback, whether that's through stars, whether that's through sort of questionnaires, anything like that. I have it every sort of month or so. Have it mandatory as well. So stars, the feedback they get, they must get it from their sort of course and their institution, and feed it back to the Vice President of Education to sort of work on that module. So I should obviously Lewis work towards early module selection and things this year, which is a good thing. But like you say, it's having that knowledge of what you want to do and what the module entails is going to help you make that early decision. And I think that comes from the people before giving good feedback on the modules, and essentially comes down from having the knowledge of what is good and what isn't good for the student, which comes back from sort of the effectiveness of the stars. And I think by increasing the effectiveness of the stars and how they feed back to the uni, then can help provide a sort of foundation to build upon.
John, then Debbie.
For me, obviously, applying for a president role, it'd be working as a team with the VP of Education and making sure that they know what modules that people are doing in their course. So, for example, if someone's for me, when I'm doing cricket course, am I actually doing something that's actually involved in cricket? And obviously, working with the Vice President of Education would be also for them to work with the stars, to work with the people, as well as the course tutors and the course leaders, so that they know that they're getting the best sort of educational aspect throughout their university 3 years, so that they can then leave and knowing that they've done their full potential.
Debbie?
We have many things that go in place throughout the year. You have actually stars who you can actually tell at the beginning of the course where it's not relevant or not, but we also have the University of Worcester Student Survey, which goes through every single year, and at the end of the day, that is your time to actually make sure that you put down what is wrong with your course. It's all okay, and you can say what's right with it as well. So we need to make sure that that is implemented, and then those are actually taken forward to the CMCs, which is the Course Management Committee, which stars and institute reps are on. And as I say, we are your voice. Stars and institutes, you need to speak to us. Institute reps, you need to speak to us. So we then go through to the tutors. We then go through to the institute board meetings. So we need to make sure that everybody is communicating both what is good and what is bad, and we need to use those surveys. We need to make sure that everybody communicates what's wrong. Not just sit in a corner and say, I really don't like this because it doesn't do this. You need to make your voice heard. Your voice is everything in university. And if you sit in a corner and hide it, it doesn't help anybody. You need to make it heard.
One final question. It's down to you, Matt.
With the university rapidly growing, the Students' Union presence at the moment is only on St John's campus, and they do on kind of on tour kind of things around the campuses, but it's not embedded within, say, the Jenny Lind building or City Campus or the Hive or anything like that. I'm just wondering what you do as candidates to kind of embed that within all campuses. Really.
Alex, Hugo, Katie, first, please.
I think it would be sort of having something in the city, whether it's the Jenny Lind building, whether it's a city campus, having more sort of social space for students to use, whether that is more something like this building we've got here, whether that's sort of adapting a room maybe in evenings, something like that for sort of students that can't obviously make it up to St John's campus the whole time. So sort of some space on city that's more accessible for the students on city campus, like a social space, whatever that is in whatever form that is and whatever the students want that to be. That's what I would try and introduce.
You go.
As in my manifesto, I want to talk about transparency and kind of getting out to students more. So every fortnight, what I plan to do, this is my aim, is every fortnight go to a different location where students hang out. So be that the Hive, be that Wetherspoons because I'm partial to a pint of cider sometimes, be that Jenny Lind building, be that the arena, and so have an open forum for an hour, much like this, where students can come along at a time that suits them, not suits me, but actually suits them, and they can ask us questions about what we're doing in office, also hold us accountable to our manifestos. But if a student, as I mentioned earlier, if a student has an issue about I don't know, their lecturers or mental health or something, if they live in the city or they live in a student house in St Peter's, for example, they don't want to trek it over to St John's to just tell that to their SU officer. What I want to do is I want to take the SU out there. Similar to the SU on tour things that have happened in the last couple of years, I think they're amazing ideas. Taking sofas down to St John's campus, city campus, getting the students to sit down there for 10 minutes and have a chat to the SU officers, I think that's a fantastic idea that should continue.
So Katie, Debbie, Chloe.
Very similar to what Hugo was saying. I'd like to allot a certain amount of time, either weekly or fortnightly, whatever works, to spend some time at one of the more, one of the campuses more in the city. Not just to sit there and be like, what's wrong, what's going on, but do some activities, run some activities, break the ice with people, get people talking to each other, maybe bring some students from this campus down to the city campus so we can work out whether there's any overlapping issues. I'd also like to make it very, very known from the get-go, if I am elected, that if any students from other campuses want to speak to me but don't want to come up here, I am more than happy to allot some time, extra time at a different campus that suits them.
Debbie?
We need to remember that the university isn't just divided into campuses, and by doing it as campuses we're not making islands without any bridges. We need to make sure that we look at the whole university and make sure that wherever SU needs to be, that's where it is. That we can have perhaps an office. There's nothing to stop us having an SU office in any of the campuses and actually going and working from there. So much stuff is actually done behind a computer that we can actually work anywhere. To actually go up there and say, okay, on a Monday, I'm going to be at Jenny Lind every single week. If I need to come down for a meeting, that's fine. I wouldn't have been in my office at SU at that time anyway. So does it really matter where I work from? So we need to make sure, and it's not just the on-campus ones as well, it's partner colleges. They haven't even, we've got colleges in Cornwall and Exeter, and they don't have the facilities to actually come up here and speak to us personally. We need to make sure that we can Skype them, do different things as well, make sure that every single campus, every part of Worcester University is included.
Chloe, James, Fran, then Jake, and then that's it.
I think it's a key thing to keep in mind as well that communication, I think, really lacks face-to-face communication between St John's and City, which I think needs to be improved. Also as well, like Debbie said, it needs to be advertised. I think if, like she said, it should be 2 campuses, but it should be advertised where a full-time member of staff is. Through something stupid, as in the Find My Friends app. If you've got that on your phone or another tracking app and you can see where your vice president is at all time, obviously another phone, because that would be a bit creepy if they're following you on your personal phone, but have a separate device that you can see where your vice president is, and if you've got a question, you can go up to them and be like, you know what, I've got a problem with this and this course amongst City Campus, or even a feed, even on, say, Blackboard. Again, it's not that face-to-face communication, but it's better than nothing, and like a few of the candidates have said, a regular time each week that you can say, we are going to be here at this time if you've got any questions, and if people want to change that time, we can trial it for, say, a month, see if that is an appropriate time for us to be there, and if not, we can change it as we need to.
James?
I think it is about being in the right place at the right time. I think inclusivity of every student is a massive talking point. I think everyone's mentioned it. It's trying to incorporate everyone into a sort of plan of one university and become that sort of whole thing. I think, like much like Debbie said, having maybe someone based on sort of rotating around officers, having someone based at least 3 out of the 5 days a week at City Campus, somewhere near Sansom Halls, to provide the opportunity. But to not push for answers, to not go to sort of social spaces and things, is where I somewhat disagree. I think if you put yourself in that position where you can be found, you're easily found and accessible to the people. They'll come to you if they want to come to you. Whereas if you go out and push for things, it's not necessarily what I'd want personally. I want someone just to be there for when I needed it, not sort of if.
Fran?
As Matt said, correct me if I'm wrong, you're talking about the future, how we're expanding, not exactly what we've got now. Both. Okay. I think that the issue that we have now is available to most of the local area, apart from the partner colleges, that we still have to fix that link. How we do that, I'm not sure, because that's student council consultation. But I think that if we are expanding, at the moment we don't know where we're expanding to. So it may be that the SU has to look at maybe putting more part-time officers in who were based just at those areas that can then feed back, and if needed, then full-time officers will go to that place and deal with any issue that the part-time officer is unable to.
And finally, Jade.
Yeah, it's just really reiterating what everyone says. Like, I don't want to repeat everything, but like something that definitely needs to be looked on is there is a clear, not necessarily divide, but difference between the involvement on people on St John's and City. Obviously, it's more convenient for people on St John's campus to be more involved here because they're closer and it's easier for them. But that's something that definitely, if elected, I would want them both to feel as one, and no campus should feel more favoured or more included than the other. So that's definitely something that I would want to work on if elected.
So, unfortunately, that's all the time that we have today. A reminder that voting will open at 8 a.m. on Wednesday morning. You can find polling booths in the Students' Union or at City Campus, or alternatively just log on to the Student Union website. And if you can't decide, remember you can rank them in order of preference, or if you don't like any of them, you can just vote for Ron, who is reopened nominations. Make sure that you do vote, because it's really important that your voice is heard and you pick who you want to lead and take over from me. And make sure that you come along to the election results on Friday from 7 p.m. in the Pear Tree. I hope that you've all been able to make a decision based on things that you've heard today. So yeah, I've been your chair and host and president for the year, Wesley Hudson. Thank you and goodbye.